Welcome to Tears for Transformation. We are digging a little deeper today. I wanted to start out this episode by just telling you a little story that you may already know a little bit, but it's more about why I absolutely love group exercise. And I'll say this, and there might be some people that snub their nose at me, but I'm just being honest. So, the first fitness job that I ever had was a group exercise instructor. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved going into a room and having 30 to 50 people come in and us all moving together with some music. And I know most of you have probably been to a wedding and the electric slide or some, line dance comes on. And it's so much easier to go out when there's a group of people to do a line dance, whereas when the music is on by itself, a lot of people have that nervous feeling of, well, I don't really know what moves to do, so I'm not going to go dance, right? Or they say, I need some alcohol. I need a couple of drinks in me before they do it, with that, because they need that comfort. One of the things I loved and still love about group exercise, and this is why you have to come to my events. You have to come. You just have to come. Go to digdeepernation.com. But anyway, I digress. When people are moving together in a room where it's full of music and the energy is exciting, while the workout is tough, or if it's dance, it's more fun, there's something about the endorphin lift that happens that cannot be duplicated anywhere else. I see some of the most amazing classes on Instagram. I remember years ago when I started seeing this class that was taught in Atlanta with the cinder blocks, and they were doing like steps on cinder blocks. I was like, oh my gosh, I'd never gotten a chance to go to that class, but some of my friends would go and I would see people. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And then I would see cycling classes that were so energetic and fun. Now, mind you, I had already been teaching probably 20 years by the time I saw that, but it just took me back to those times where I loved group exercise and I loved the energy and just the joy of what it brought. And then I did teach Johnny G. I taught spinning and boot camp and body pump. But the reason why I say that is because I love bringing groups of people together. And I know in the episode, Lisa Woods, one of her things that she loved so much was group exercise, and it is very special, and it does bring people together, and it is a community, and that's why I love Dig Deeper Nation. And I'm telling you this so that you can find something that you absolutely love and enjoy and attach to when it comes to your fitness and your health, right? Because when you are going after something that you want, the greatest joy is that it's what you want. It's kind of like, when I talk about the transition and transformation, it's all about what it is that you like and what you want. But I really enjoyed and still enjoy teaching group exercise. The reason why I said it earlier, please don't judge me, is because I said to Justin yesterday, who is my bodybuilding coach, if you don't know by now, I was like, I give you so much props because I did not like being a personal trainer. Now, I love personal trainers. I love being trained. I had Kristen was my personal trainer and physical therapist. Justin is my coach and personal trainer. I love personal trainers. I love what they do. There's some amazing trainers at my gym. They're so committed and dedicated. But to me, I love, which is kind of interesting, I love groups of people, but I don't like going to big parties. That's kind of like weird. I love groups of people. Some might say, Shaun, you only like groups of people when you can control what they're doing. And maybe that is the case when it comes to group exercise, because I love to create that positive, good, energetic feel. Now, I'm specifically talking about passion. I went on that route to talk about passion. And so I want you to maybe think about right now, what is your true passion? Now, this is something else I talked about in therapy recently because I said to my therapist, I said, I'm doing too much. I was like, I'm just doing too much. I remember when I was in high school, I ran track all year. I ran cross country, indoor, outdoor track and field. I was a vice president of my student government. I was the president of the Erase Club, which was End Racism and Sexism Everywhere, which was also a drill team. Then I did I said evening news. I did the afternoon news at my school. I was in choir at school, and I was in like all state choir, and I was in a gospel choir at church, and I was in a youth group gospel choir. And I always said to myself, I said to my therapist last night, I was like, I'm always doing something. I was like, am I doing too much? I said, because I'm just so tired. The first question he asked is like, do you enjoy it? Like, are you passionate about it? I'm like, yes. And then the next thing was, are you having fun? I'm like, yeah, it's so good, but I'm so tired. And again, we were trying to figure out, am I doing too much or am I not doing too much? And I came up with this really, I guess he guided me. He's wonderful. But I came up with this plan when I feel like I'm starting to do too much, because I do want to enjoy it. I do want to go after what it is that I want. I really want to see things come to fruition, if you will. But I said, I'm going to have to start giving myself a date of completion, and not necessarily a completion of the project itself, but maybe it's a financial goal, or maybe it's an impact goal, if you will. And so, and I realized that when I did that, then it relieved some of my tension. It relieved some of my stress. And I say all that to say, like, if you're passionate, if you're going after something, it's going to be a little stressful, but give yourself like some little deadlines, like these small little windows of goals that you can commit to, because you're like, oh my gosh, if I reach that, it's great. The other thing that I have is really great is I have a really great team. And also in therapy, I realized that for the first time that the CEO really drives what the team and the company is doing. And I got on the phone with a couple of my team members yesterday. I was like, hey guys, I talked about you in therapy today. This is what I said, and I thought I was correct. And they were like, absolutely. They were like, we are here to get the job done. They're basically like, we know you have great ideas, and we are people who don't give up. So then I got home and I had this long conversation with Scott, because Scott and I come from a world of give up. Like, what is that? That's why I have this tattoo on my arm. It's too hard. I'm too tired. It's too long. I'm too busy. I know I can't see. I can't see even with my glasses on. And then it says never give up. So I had to come home and I had to talk to Scott, and I'm like, okay, I'm talking to you, and you're always the right person for me to talk to. But I was also like, I'm not sure if you're the right person to talk to, because we're very similar. And, if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do something. So anyway, we had this long discussion, and then we just talked about what I talked about. It's like, oh, I want to give myself like, not a deadline necessarily, but a date where I could readjust, and a date where I can assess what it is I'm doing. So I say all that to say, if you have a passion and you're going after something and you love it and enjoy it, but it's also wearing you down, just give yourself these little milestones that you can reassess. You can reassess your energy. You can reassess if it's successful. You can reassess. You can say, well, maybe I can make this more of a hobby rather than something that I want to put, as a bigger piece of the pie, if you will. And I just think that's really, really important. But that also leads me into, when we talk about that bigger piece of the pie, it leads me to talk about food. Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm in a bulking phase as I'm filming this. As you can probably see, these broad shoulders and big biceps. I have a shirt on, so you can still kind of see my abs, but I'm thicker than a Snicker. And I think, well, first of all, I wish I had a Snicker. I would completely take a deal with Snickers. So if one of my lovely fans out there has a contact at the Snickers brand, and they want to make a bar that says thicker than a Snicker, tell them to reach out to me. I will sell the hell out of it, and I'll eat it. But make sure it's vegan. That'd be kind of fun, a vegan Snickers bar. Anyway, I say all that to say, when you got to eat and you got to get thicker than a Snicker, you could Reach out to Hummus Fit, myhummusfit.com/Shaun T gets you 10% off. Now, I say all that to say, and I'm actually going to create a reel about this, which is really cool. I'm going to talk about how portion control is the way to you gaining or losing weight. And I know you all know this, but everything you see here, from the lean ground beef to the sticky rice to the sweet potato fries to the chicken kebab, but all of this is very, very healthy, right? And then when you add like lots of rice, or if you, the more food you add to your body, the more you're going to bulk. And that's great. But the same thing when it comes to portion control. This same food is the same food I ate to get me lean on that stage. Like, this is what I ate. I would travel with it. They would ship it to hotels for me. It's amazing. So go to myhummusfit.com/Shaun T to receive 10% off. They're in Long Island, New York. You know, I'm from Jersey, but I live in Arizona, so they ship anywhere, and it's really, really wonderful. Anyway, I say all that to say that, you know, if your body's your passion, make sure you fuel that correctly as well. Now I'm going to transition to having a healthy relationship with food. Let's do a little test. On a scale of 1 to 10, how healthy is your relationship with food? Right? Like, how healthy is your relationship with food? Are you like, oh, I'm good? Are you eating too much? Are you eating too little? Are you working too hard where you're not fueling your body? Are you working too hard that you're not fueling your body? When I say work, I mean like a job. You're not fueling your body, so then you don't have the energy to go to the gym, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how is your relationship with food? Are you constantly stopping at the fast food restaurant or ordering off Uber Eats or DoorDash, right? Like, are you doing things that you know that aren't aiding in you having the best relationship with food? Well, if this is you, I have to tell you, I know I just told you guys about Hummus Fit. One of the things I like is that it comes like packed, but also with something that's really important, and you've been probably seeing me doing on my social media. Start cooking. I had a friend who I introduced to Justin, and she didn't want to compete and get on stage or anything like that, but she did say, you know, I want to, it wasn't really about weight loss. Like, she wanted to tone up. She's 1 year younger than me. She's a collegiate athlete. And one of the things she did, she worked with Justin for 6 months, and it was amazing. And one of the things that she said consistently, even now that she's not necessarily on that particular plan, she learned a lot over the last 6 months, and we went out to dinner. One of the things she says, she's like, I just love cooking so much. She never weighed her food, measured her food. She never did all the fun stuff. And it's actually fun. And so when you are talking about having a healthy relationship with food, when you start to cook the food, you become more attached to it. And always love to cook. But when I cook now, I feel like, you know, the old black women at the church. You know what I'm saying? When you go downstairs in the church and they're like putting their foot in that food. And then when you taste it, they like stare at you. They're like, and I say black women because I'm black. That's when I was around. Maybe some of y'all white people do it too, or Spanish or Asian or wherever you are. People of all races. Oh, and I've been to a Pakistani household where they taught me how to eat with food, and everybody's the same way. It's like they cook the food and then they're like, do you like it? And there's something really interesting about when you actually cook the food, because you do become more attached to the food and your relationship with the food increases. Even if you do have a food delivery company that's healthy, once you portion out your food, you add some special sauce to it, you season it. I don't like to just cook everything, even if it comes prepared. I don't like reheating it in the microwave all the time. I prefer to put it in a pan, like put my good oil in there, put my sauce in there, my special sauce. And I'm just like, it just makes me want to eat it more, and I can season it, and my relationship with what I'm eating becomes much better. And you also can do that when you go to a restaurant. My friend Jessica, who's been on this podcast before, and Brian and myself and Scott, like, we go on food dates, not as often as we would like to, but we sit down, like, everyone is so happy because I would say for the most part, our relationship with food and what we're eating is like oh my gosh, like I'm really excited to eat this. And we don't look at going out to a restaurant as, oh, I'm gonna gain weight. We change the menu if we want to. We ask about the ingredients. Restaurants nowadays are really good with allergies. And so I say all that to say is the minute you start cooking your food and you food prep, and you don't have to food prep, but the minute you start to cook your food, you just become more attached. And I say the minute, like I actually mean if you did it for a good, like you do it for a good month, you're portioning out your food and you're weighing your food and you're eating it. It just becomes a different relationship with food, even when you eat out. Even if you go on vacation and you're like, you know, somewhere like Greece and you're eating Greek food, there's the relationship with the food becomes so much better because now you respect the way that these people are cooking in the kitchen. I know it's a lot, but I think that's one of the simplest things you can do to have a better relationship with food. Eat the food, cook the food, the ingredients are going in there, and then eat the food. Eat the food. I'm going to segue into one final topic today, which you can relate to food if you want to, or you can relate to passion. Both of them, absolutely you can, is about self-acceptance, right? This probably should be a podcast in itself, but I put this quote on Facebook probably about 10 or 11 years ago. And I don't think that people really understand the quote itself. And it's in the depth of it. But it says, to believe in yourself, you must accept yourself. To accept yourself, you must trust in your power to believe. So let's break that down for a second when it comes to self-acceptance. To believe in yourself, you must accept yourself. You have to accept who you are in order to believe who you are. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm going to bring this up because most people who are listening to this knows that I'm gay. Like the thing I did, and I talk about this in my book, Tears of Transformation. If you haven't read it, you should, or you can go get the audiobook. Some people like my voice, which I love. Maybe you listen to this and you like my voice. Smooches to you. Thank you. But when I was 16 years old, I went to the mirror and I was like, you gay. I was like, you're gay. You're gay. I said it over and over again until I was like, this is who the fuck you are. Like, I'm not quite sure why you should go about your life not wanting to do this. Now, this is for me. I know a lot of people don't have that mindset and it's not that easy. But that's why in the episode with Lisa Woods, I brought out the mirror because I'm like, we need to have a mirror moment. That's why I have mirror moments. That's why I talk about these mirror moments, because when you can look at yourself, you accept yourself. And when you look at your reflection, you cannot deny it. Like, you have to believe that you exist. To believe in yourself, you must accept yourself. To accept yourself, you must trust in your power to believe, because it takes power to believe in yourself. And that is the deep work. That is getting to the nitty gritty of why you are actually here and why you're existing and why you're making these decisions and choices to be what and who you are and live the life that you want to be. So to believe in yourself, you must accept yourself. To accept yourself, you must trust in your power to believe. And it all comes from that internal power. I can do an entire episode about this, but it also starts with the mirror moments. And last but not least, being honest with yourself. I'll finish here. You have to be honest with yourself. Even if, and I'm not telling you to lie, even if you have a hard time being honest with other people because of embarrassment or because, facing whatever fact that you're afraid of facing, it starts with being honest with yourself. It goes a really, really long way. You ever been in an argument with your spouse and you know you're wrong. You know you're on the wrong side. You know you're on the wrong side of the argument, but you still want to you still want to plead your case. But in your head, you're like, bitch, you're wrong. When I do that, I say to myself, you're wrong. And then I just say to Scott, I'm like, I'm wrong. Like, I want to keep arguing that fact. I want to make my point. I do, that fight or flight. But you know what? If you're honest with yourself, guess what happens when you become honest with yourself? And I use that situation specifically. The argument ends because that person now appreciates it, that you're not trying to fight what is really true. And then they're also going to respect you, because most people will know how hard it is to admit that you're wrong in a situation, even when you want to fight that you're right. That is the being honest with yourself. That's the best I can say. And a lot of people are holding a lot of things inside, which is causing them to be a certain way on the outside. However, if you just start being a little honest with yourself, I promise you, your life will be that much better. I promise that. And that doesn't even have to be negative stuff. It can be, I really don't want this job anymore, because you might be fighting to just hold on to that career, but you're like, I really don't want this anymore. Just you admitting that will put you in a process of probably thinking about other things you want to do, or the thing that you want to do. And it is that you have you ever run out of gas and you think that the car is going to be really heavy to push, and somebody's like, yo, put it in neutral, and you get behind the car and you're like, oh, this car is moving easier than I thought it would be, Like, that's by being honest with yourself. You just put your car, or you put yourself in neutral, and now you can start to be like, all right, now I'm going to start to direct myself where to go. And it starts with honest. Honesty. You get it? Honesty. Hey, I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be. What I talk to you about is things that I think about, and I apply it from lessons and stories that I've learned from other people that I help transform. So I hope you continue to transform. T is for transformation. And remember, life goes until it doesn't go anymore. And you can constantly make choices that make you feel better. And I'll see you next time.